Okay, so today we are going to discuss about Asia-US cross-border business development and investment in biopharma and medtech. So we have two guest speakers today. So Joshua Barin is very famous in this space. So he just came from JP Morgan, so he will deliver the hottest new news about this topic. And then David Kim, he's a expert in cross-border investment, so he will share his experience. So the schedule is like that. So I'm going to talk about briefly that to set the stage, and after that, Josh will talk about the latest trend in cross-border deal making. And then followed by the David Kim. So seven decisions that shape the successful cross-border scale and fundraising. And then I briefly talk about some technical matters like agentic AI framework to handle some challenges and complexities of this BD and investment. And then we'll have a Q&A session. During the session, if you have any question, then you can leave your question in chat window, and then you can keep going on, and then after that we'll have a like interact Q&A session in separately. Okay, so I talk about what the current status Asia US, the cross-border business development and investment. So I will talk about the BD and investment. So I share already my presentation and the deep dive style white paper about this topic. So I will skim over, only touch the important topics, and then I let you read if you are interested in more detail. So first that I just made an exact summary before you can look at the detailed topics. So in first that Asia US cross-border BD is now core infrastructure. So I summarized the what the status that cross-border BD has become foundational. So external partnerships now underpin pipeline sustainability, capital strategy, and global growth. And Asia US is the center of gravity. So innovation increasingly flows bidirectionally between Asia and US. And China has emerging as a net innovation exporter. So high quality oncology and platform asset now compete globally on science and execution. And these structures haven't matured. So both development, profit sharing, and platform access are replacing owner asset trade. And MedTech, especially the digital health, are embedded. Actually, I've been to CES this year, and then one dramatic change in the compared to the traditional CES show was the upcoming raising of the digital health as a main show in CES. So there was two showrooms actually related to digital health, and I show 100 kind of like companies provided their digital health innovation. So this will be ever-raising, kind of like increasing fear, and especially I know about several kind of like a big uh startup that have a global innovation driving particularly from South Korea that I'm familiar with, and other China and other Japan and other Asian country. So AI software and connected system that are intrinsic to cross-border value creation and platform strategy outweigh a single asset. So companies license optionally and long-term innovation capacity, not isolated programs, and multiple objectives are solved simultaneously. So pipeline linear, market access, risk sharing, and non-diluted capital coverage in one deal. And external sourcing is normalized. So nearly half of major pharma pipelines now originate outside the internal R&D. And then I will look at the cross-border investment. So Asia-US investment has structurally rebounded. So post the year 2022, capital returned with the discipline and long-term healthcare focus. And the US anchor innovation, Asia scale capital. So US science and regulatory leaderships pair with Asian long horizon funding. And Asia has become a net capital exporter. So China, Singapore, and Japan deploy outbound capital at scale into US platforms. And China play a dual role. So China firms invest globally while exporting high quality therapeutic innovation. And investment extend beyond venture rounds. So co-development financing and new company structure are increasingly common. And hybrid investment licensing models dominate. So equity milestones and options replace outright acquisitions. And investment and BD are inseparable. So capital deployment is tightly coupled with the licensing and partnership strategy. And geopolitics reshape structure, not flow. So syndicate and NewCo adapt cross-border investment pathway. Okay, so I just let you explore the more detail that I prepared, and I'll stop here. And I hand over to Josh, and then he will deliver really, really interesting topic today. Josh?
Great. Thank you, and a great introduction, Alex. And thank you so much for the invite to join the webinar. I'm really looking forward to it. I lead corporate alliances and business development for BioCentury, which includes our conferences and podcast business, among others. I've also spent a lot of my career, much of my career, helping to connect Western biopharma executives and investors to their peers in Asia, particularly in East Asia, including China, Korea, Japan. And a little bit about, make sure I can advance the slides here. Having a hard time advancing my slides.
When you test, it was working.
Yeah, it was. Let me try real quickly. Sorry about this.
Oh, yep. It looks like now I can see the old
You can
slide.
see it.
So it should work.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Seems to
yeah.
be working out. Sorry about that. So if you don't know BioCentury, we're a 30-year plus organization based out of the San Francisco Bay Area. We provide research for biopharma executives and investors in US, Europe, and Asia. And then we also convene C-level conferences in Europe, US, and Asia, including a conference that we'll be co-hosting with some of our friends in Korea in Seoul in March that we're really looking forward to, our fifth East-West Summit. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But mainly wanted to tell you about two things today. One was, as Alex mentioned, I am just back from JP Morgan, like I think some of you were as well. So I wanted to give a few quick takeaways about what I heard at JP Morgan, and then also give you some data on a recent report that BioCentury put together looking at Asia deal making over the last few years. And there's a few takeaways there that I think are really important. But bottom line is, if for those of you who were at JP Morgan or if you weren't, top takeaway was, I think biopharma interest and investor interest in Asia is here to stay. I really thought last year's JP Morgan 2025 was really a pivotal moment when essentially the entire industry sort of woke up to the fact that Asia innovation was an opportunity. And suddenly all the hallway conversations at JP Morgan in 2025 seemed to be about China, seemed to be about Asia and sourcing innovation. And if anything, I think those conversations even accelerated this year. And we're just continuing to see more and more deals. And so, there were several deals that were announced right before JP Morgan, including a NewCo, Haseco, which is I think a company that a lot of folks in the US probably don't know. But some of our friends sort of call them the little Hongri, but a new code deal that involved very sophisticated investors like Fraser and Oramed, along with a huge Series A, 250 million. There was also a very big licensing deal from AbbVie to Remegen and AbbVie, Remegen, rising biotech in China, an AbbVie licensing deal for 650 million up front. The deal sizes that we're seeing cross border are really becoming, I think, sort of normal to see deal sizes this large. And there's even, just in the last few days, been a couple of more Asia deals, including GSK buying a US biotech called Wrapped for 2.2 billion. But that US biotech actually had licensed innovation from China. And so its pipeline is again a US biotech, but is a China innovation. And then the other big trend we're seeing that I think is underlying a lot of the Asia deals, but is really the name of the game now in biotech, is that you need to get into the clinic quickly to de-risk assets for potential partners and investors. And this is a story about China biotechs, but it's also a story for other Asia biotechs, as well as Western biotechs looking to take advantage of opportunities in China and elsewhere to accelerate clinical data and get to partnerships quicker. I won't go into too much detail, but China in particular, known for its investigator-initiated trial pathway, as well as obviously a huge patient population, universal healthcare, a lot of opportunities there for clinical trials. And I think increasingly we're starting to see Western biotechs looking at China as an opportunity for clinical development. But there's also a lot of interest ex-China. Australia has become a pretty famous destination now for phase 1 trials, and we're hearing increasing interest about Korea and some other countries that have a good clinical trial infrastructure and a good healthcare system. And we're also seeing increasing frustration, frankly, with the inability to move forward quickly with phase 1 trials in the US or Europe. And I think that's something to look at to see whether there might be some changes made to US regulatory policy. There's been some pretty well-known advocates on X, for instance, folks like Scott Gottlieb, Bob Nelson at Arch, providing suggestions on how FDA could improve on its clinical trial regulations to increase the ability for folks to start trials quicker and essentially get back in the game, which is what we're seeing some of these other countries. The other part, which I was just amazed at, we've been in this terrible bear market now for 4+ years, particularly in the U.S. and Europe, and I really thought investor sentiment is changing considerably. There's a lot of optimism now, a lot more certainly than there's been in the last 4 years. BioCentury just actually published an analysis piece, my colleague Stephen Hansen, where he said biotech's bull is back. So we actually have folks now talking about, is this starting to be the beginning of a bull market? Certainly, if you had invested in, say, the XBI mid-year last year, if you came in at that point, you had a really, really good 6 months. And a lot of this is being fueled by M&A, by the deals, including the Asia deals. We're certainly seeing follow-ons really take off on NASDAQ, and we're hoping, to see IPOs as well. And then if you look at the Hong Kong exchange, that's been, really roaring along since early last year, including a very robust IPO pipeline. And then also interest rates now. I think the fear of interest rates rising is starting to ebb. So I don't have a crystal ball, but this I think is something to watch, and is certainly something we're hearing from our network. At the same time, I do think that risks have changed in the industry, and despite positive investor sentiment, there's a lot of uncertainty, and this is just the world we're going to all have to navigate. I mentioned FDA. I think I don't have to go into too much details on FDA. There's certainly been a lot of news flow about that, but there's a lot of uncertainty about FDA now that, frankly, is not something that investors or biopharma execs have had to deal with. There's also been a lot of publicity about most favored nation and drug pricing. I think at least initially it hasn't been as bad as feared, but that's still something that is on people's mind. Geopolitics, which Alex mentioned at the beginning, is something we all have to, navigate now. Biosecure, which I think a lot of folks thought was not going to pass. Actually, a 2.0 version did pass late last year. BioCentury's analysis is that it's not as bad as it certainly could have been, but it's something to watch because I think there is a fear that potentially it's the stepping stone for further regulation. And then obviously, there's I think a lot more public backlash about science in general, which personally is not so great for the industry. So on one hand, we have investor sentiment, we have all this positive, we have all this Asia deal flow, but we all are trying to navigate this new world that we're facing. Um, we also think that uncertainty, also brings opportunity. And Alex mentioned the NewCo phenomena. To BioCentury, that was really a game changer when all the NewCos started to form. It really changed, I think, the optics on innovation in Asia when you started having very well-known, very well-respected VCs starting to essentially in-license innovation from Asia and launch new biotechs in either the US or Europe with experienced management teams, with very significant Series A, some of these Series A, 200 million plus. That really changed the optics, I think, for a lot of folks and made people sort of sit up and take notice that that the innovation coming out of Asia now is real. And we'll see what happens with those new codes. Obviously they need to deliver on the clinical story, but it really did change the optics. And then I wanted to, real quickly go through a report that my colleagues did earlier, really looking at Asia deals over a pretty long time frame from the beginning of 2023 through the first half of 2025. They looked at 198 deals, and I thought there were some really interesting findings there that at least surprised me. And here are four right here, and I'll drill down a little bit further on the next slides. But pharma is getting a lot of the attention on the deal flow. Certainly companies like AZ and GSK, Pfizer, really, really big deal terms and are dominating the headlines. But if you look beneath the surface, what we're also seeing is there's quite a lot of deal flow happening on the Western biotech side, where Western biotechs now very actively looking to in-license innovation from Asia. Much of that has been a China story, but we're also starting to see opportunities emerge in other countries as well, in particular Korea. We also, are seeing Asian innovators, really very quickly moving into hot areas, again, generating quicker clinical data for potential partners and reaping the rewards of that via the deal making. I don't have to go too much into antibodies, but that certainly has been, the anchor of a lot of the deals. But we see that changing as well. I think, there was just a CAR T deal just this past week, for instance, and we do expect that to evolve over time. And the other one is, if you haven't been paying attention, you have some catch up to do because these are not only anymore me too or me better opportunities. We're really seeing a move to first in class and best in class innovation. Um, Again, not just pharma companies, but Western biotechs are doing a lot of the deals. We expect to see that continuing going forward. There's a race to fill pipelines and to essentially make sure that you're not falling behind in certain areas like obesity, for instance. And biotechs as well as pharmas are looking to Asia for to access this innovation. We're also seeing, the deal terms, like I mentioned earlier, are just spiraling upwards. And so, quite a few of the deals now, 1 billion plus in total deal value. A lot of the upfronts, continuing to increase as well. And these are now, substantial deals. I think a lot of this started, with folks essentially bargain hunting, thinking that they could get a better, a deal in Asia at a lower price. That's quickly starting to go away now as the supply and demand, just the demand for Asian innovation, and we're seeing more and more deals that are at market rates, essentially what you would expect in the West. And these upfronts, are really providing a lot of cash to Asia biotechs, China biotechs, but we're also seeing it, there's been quite a few deals in Korea now as well, that are, this upfront cash is allowing these Asia biotechs to advance the rest of their pipeline and make additional strategic choices. So it really has helped to further capitalize the Asia biotechs. That was particularly important during the bear market. But now, where you have both as I mentioned, the XBI in the U.S. and the Hang Seng Biotech Index in Hong Kong really taking off, it's essentially an additional source of non-dilutive capital in addition to raising on the markets. And again, China has been dominating the conversation, rightfully so. Quite a few great China biotechs that led by founders that are very entrepreneurial and globally facing. Certainly, that's been dominating the news flow. But we're also seeing increasingly, particularly from Japan and Korea, deals happening. Korea, in particular, we think, BioCentury thinks is an opportunity that is emerging, and we are bringing our East-West Summit to Seoul in March, in large part because of what we're seeing. The other thing is, this is a big something that BioCentury really believes in. This is a global industry, and new biology can be created anywhere. And we're seeing it now in Asia, maybe at an unprecedented level. And it's great for the industry, great for patients, and we expect that to continue, and if anything, to expand into some of these other Asia countries listed here. Again, China dominating the news flow, but we also see emerging opportunities elsewhere in Asia as well. And then I mentioned this, but we're also seeing Asia biotechs jumping into some of the hot areas that are hot in the West and very quickly catching up and leading, with clinical data that is compelling for pharma and for VCs. Obesity is a really good example where there wasn't a whole lot of obesity deal flow coming out of Asia, even a year or two ago, and now is really become a focus for pharma as well as some of the new codes that we've seen be built on obesity assets. And the other thing is, we're also seeing early stage deals. So, some of this is later stage deals, folks trying to fill pipeline, particularly pharma, with a lot of patent expirations coming up. But we're also seeing early stage deals, even to the discovery phase. And we expect to see that continuing, and if anything, growing over time as the industry matures in Asia, in China, and Korea, and Japan. I mentioned this already. This is not a fast and follower story anymore. This is really a first-in-class opportunity for a lot of biotechs now in Asia, and we expect to see that continuing. So if you're playing catch up, this is really an opportunity now that's emerging to access cutting edge innovation, whether that's through China biotechs or Korea biotechs. The most of the pharma deals, or a lot of the pharma deals, have really been first in class deals. And it's a pretty good percentage here where we see Korea 36% of the deals, Japan 40%, and China rising now to 38% first in class. Again, data to sort of back up what I was just saying, which is that it's really becoming a place to find a new innovation emerging. And then, in terms of what we mean by first in class innovation, some of that's new targets, some of that's new modality against a known target, and some of that's in a new disease area for a known target. And then I just, thought I would, sort of close by this sort of a checklist that our team has put together for Asia innovators to think about and sort of how to differentiate yourself in this rapidly changing world. One of which is, and not really only for Asia biotechs, but also European and US biotechs. One is capital efficiency. Again, I think there are signs of optimism that we might be finally turning the corner on the bear market. Um, and that's great. But I also think that folks are not going to forget what's happened over the last 4 years, and shame on all of us if we do. Capital efficiency is really the name of the game. That's what all the VCs are focused on, whether they're from Asia, Europe, or the US, and that's gonna continue. Again, speed, speed, speed. So getting into the clinic quickly to de-risk for potential partners is really pivotal now. Differentiation is really measured by first-in-class innovation, and you need to compete globally. There's no point trying to be the best biotech in Seoul or trying to be the best biotech in Boston, Cambridge. That's not what it's about. It's about competing globally and bringing the best innovation possible to patients. And so you need to be able to understand the competitive landscape not only in your backyard but across the globes. And then, we really do believe that at the end of the day, it's the markets that define the innovation. It's the investors on the private side, and then obviously once a company goes public, that's really what's defining the innovation. And we think for Asia to succeed, that you really need centers of excellence that are going to require cross-border collaboration. This graphic on the right is one we've been showing as sort of our graphic to show that this arc of innovation we believe is emerging across Asia, and it's a great opportunity for those outside of Asia to learn more about opportunities and companies to potentially partner with. And then in terms of, sort of advice, for Asia biotechs, we think this is an unprecedented time, where folks in Asia are really starting to put themselves on the map and an opportunity to, take advantage, obviously, of the West's interest in China innovation to build your biotech brand, whether that's in Korea, whether that's in Singapore, whether that's in Japan. You really want to be a core part of this arc of innovation, core part of this destination. And you need to create visible value. There's a lot of biotechs out there now, much more than there ever has been before. And I think a lot of investors think there's too many biotechs. So being able to rise above the noise and to get your story out is really important now in order to get on the dance card of pharma and VCs. And so you really need to create visible value. You need to have de-risking data. And you need to build your network early. Before you're ready to partner, you should already be building those relationships that are required in order to do the deal. There's certainly a lot of events out there. We'd love to have folks join BioCentury on the road at our conferences in Asia, the US, and Europe. As I mentioned, we'll be in Seoul in March working with Korea Bio and other leaders there in the ecosystem with a great regional host committee. We'll also be back in China in November for our 12th China Healthcare Summit. We have a great European event. That's really the top VC event, I think, in the whole industry, BioEquity, which is in May. And then we have Grand Rounds, which is our early stage R&D event, which will be in the US in Seattle. We also have a European edition. I couldn't fit it on this slide, but that'll be in Amsterdam in September. And please scan the QR code or drop me a note. Happy to tell you more, but we'd love to see you there and happy to answer any questions if folks want to send me an email. So that's all I had. So I'll turn it back to Alex, and thank you for the time.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, Dave, you can start now.
Okay, can you see the slide?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Hello everyone. Good morning and good evening, depending where you are. Uh, when I was asked by Alex about this webinar presentation, actually I shared the topic with him is seven decisions that shape the cross-border scaling and fundraising. But I realized that I don't have that much time, so I changed the topic. So building the global from the local root. And I share the simple three story with you based on my personal experience and observation. Regarding the cross-border growth and global capital and adoption architecture of tech startup, including the MedTech and healthcare. Myself is I'm the investment banker, turn tech journalist, and also produce film. And I work as a value creation architect for the a private equity backed portfolio company and the CEO of and founder of the tech startup. So today I'm not going to talk about the high quality, complex strategic insight. I'll share with you just a simple, easy, and experience-based point of view to help you understand how to grow your business internationally and how to raise the money from the international investor. So today, three things I will talk about today is three bridges you need to build. Is bridge number one is trust infrastructure. And bridge number two is experience design, not for feature, technical feature for adoption, but for adoption. Bridge number three is narrative think. So why MedTech excellence plateau? This is not only not limited only to the MedTech or health tech, also I mean, but also to the most of the tech startup. And I believe in that we are in the same situation, face the same challenge and difficulty grow our business. So here are the two things we have to be good at, or the master to the scale of the business. One is a technical excellence. I think most of tech startup is doing very well and developed a fantastic product with a great technology solution. And most of them is past the clinical trial successfully and then gained some early traction. That's the pretty much common situation for the tech startup and the MedTech startup company as well. But problem is a narrative architect based on my experience. Uh, like they need to build a bridge, connect with investor and strategic partner to to collaborate and grow the business together. So if we can do the both very well successfully, then we can have a good product as a result, and we can have a successful scalable success of becoming category leader. This is bridge number one. And also this is actually I extract the content and the image from the newsletter article I wrote last year. And core message is fundraising never happened in the room. It happened in the trust accumulated before you enter it. Yeah. It is what is obvious is you cannot build the bridge and the cross river on the same day. This is a message I want to share with you. So imagine, I mean, when you email the 40-page, 20-page pitch deck to the investor, we can imagine what everybody does, every investor does it. They Google your name and about the industry and everything, right? Then while in few minutes they'll find out articles from years ago, defined what you are, and the legacy category labor stick, anchor trap, and competitor narrative shape the perception, right? You can define it or you can be defined. All the press release. So when you walk in, you are not really pitching upside. You are not really, you hope, I believe that everybody hope to convince investor about your vision and the strengths of a business model and differentiate a technical solution. However, reality is that you are defending your credibility based on the legacy information they found online. Also, this is article I wrote at my column at the Korea Economic Daily, legacy newspaper. Title was "Money Doesn't Respond to Urgency." So actually, the article start with uh, one first line is many people actually email or send a text to my LinkedIn inbox. Hey, David, and they ask me, "Hell, can I ask you something?" And then, do you have a fantastic background? You can introduce investor. Uh, However, I always don't feel comfortable about the introduction investor because that's not the way work for the fundraiser. So as I briefly mentioned in the previous slide, I recommend the founder and CEO, if you have a plan to fundraise from the external investor, please build narrative bridge infrastructure 6 to 12 months before the you fundraise. That's a bridge number one. Yeah. So money doesn't respond to alignment. Money respond only to alignment and trust. I know there is a one like a quote I love very much is if you want to attract butterfly, you need to mend the garden, right? You cannot chase the butterfly. Probably that's the message consistent with this slide. So architect your narrative system. First thing is you need to build the infrastructure, crystallize your unfair advantage, and build the thought leadership presence everywhere, whether it's a YouTube, webinar, or LinkedIn, or your website, or your white paper, or even including your corporate strategy narrative video. You need to have a consistent message with the depth. You cannot show the like beautiful design and the beautiful corporate video to convince the investor and strategic partner. And as a result, and with a strong narrative system, company usually can compress the fundraising by over 50%. And in terms of case study, I describe it. For example, you may have raised 12 million US dollar at 2 times higher valuation than peer with the same technology and same traction. Second bridge is about the design. No, I wrote actually a lot in my column in the Korean newspaper and Singapore and Hong Kong. I mean the column I'm writing for. And what I found is the technology company, including the healthcare, even agri-tech, they do not fare because their technology has a problem or that their technology is inferior. But they fail because they have I mean the human design issue. They are too much focused on tech. So that's a scale killer. So I'm not sure whether you know or not, but Kim Yong-se is a very famous Korean designer, industrial designer, who came up with the concept is a big design. So design is not the product design. In order to scale your business, you need to cover system design, product and service experience design. That's what really need for designing your business and product. So I Googled a little bit and then I found that very many interesting cases. For example, according to Business Insider, Forward Health, and they raised 650 million US dollar, but they failed because of integration issue. And there are a lot of other example by Financial Times, The Guardian, our medical and healthcare, the specialized media. They mention about the failure of a lot of MedTech or healthcare startup because of due to the poor human AI interface design and increase workflow the perfection. We can imagine is emergent medical hospital emergency room has a very unique different special situation. So I mean, the selling the devices and equipment doesn't solve the problem because they have a very tense situation to deal with the patient, right? So that's another problem is a medical device that they sold that they provided they didn't they failed to design integrate into the workflow of a medical emergency room. So in summary, the three problem, tech-centered design. And I mean, when you set up the health tech or med tech, you hire, I mean, a founder and another co-founder with tech background, CTO. I think that's a very common for most of the tech startup. But I recommend this is so summarizing is a problem workflow integration misalignment and no continuous user education and their device is perceived as replacing versus augment. That's a typical issue. So this is my recommendation and uh, you should hire someone with a very exceptional empathy and anthropological understanding to design your product and system. A few years ago, I had a conversation with a chairman of one of the very famous decathlon startup based in Hong Kong. Is Animoca brand. His name is Yasil. Uh, it was an interview. I did host a podcast. I asked a question is how do you I asked a very popular question. How do you find the smart people? He asked he I asked a boring question. He gave me a very good answer. I don't hire smart people. The smart people everywhere. Smart people can solve his own problem. In order to solve the customer problem, we need to hire someone with a very high level of empathy. That's what he answered. I think now it consistent with actually my own experience working together with the tech startup and portfolio company. So we have a lot of smart people with a fantastic education background and technology background. But what we are missing, what most of startup missing is they don't have any guy who can design system, including the product, services, experience to fit into the workflow. I mean, smoothly integrate the workflow of a user. I found that's a most critical, major region of a startup failure these days. So we can see the statistic is successful startup, MedTech company, they invest 15 to 20% of revenue into user education, not the custom support. And some company with a dedicated adoption architecture leader, they achieved the 6% adoption by year two. That's the double the market average. This is bridge number 3 I want to talk about. When I work with a CEO of a private equity portfolio company, tech startup, what I usually do, I what I call the growth readiness audit. So I look at their website, their fundraising deck, video, and the marketing deck, marketing and sales deck, also white paper, and some other due diligence information. But surprisingly, what I found which is very common about the most of tech startup. I mean, they are talking about the 5 different story at every material asset, or their story is a very super generic. I made a job with one of the CEO, a client CEO. It is a large company, in fact, in the South, based in Southeast Asia. I look at the website. Their marketing team work with outside external agency to build a fantastic, very expensive website. After their completion, I look at it. I told them, it looks very beautiful. And then only one problem, if change logo in your website, it quickly become other company's website. So website, because they copycat from the reference site, that's what usually do. I mean, website building agency. So that's a problem. Someone should manage, architect and narrative, their narrative and their storytelling in many different platform and places. But actually, they're keep like delegated their work to the marketing manager and then the our external agency. Yeah, from investor point of view, based on my experience, I usually say, uh, average CEO of the company, usually they can explain their business to the investor, external partner with the 70% of efficiency and, clarity. But his or her marketing manager probably understand 50% of what his CEO understand. Then if we delegated that job to the external agency and every content full message is disappearing. That's a problem of the startup and tech companies. So this is a number according to the PitchBook and the Deloitte. Investor report 60-70% of a healthier tech company. Pitch deck is a lack clear, memorable differentiation. In Rizal, they have a 3 times longer fundraising cycle and a 40% lower valuation. So this is a process I usually recommend CEO and founder of tech company. Common process, actually, they usually build a fundraising pitch deck or company introduction slide first. 10 page, 20 page, 40 page. And then they try to extract the, whole message for 1 minute or 2 minute elevator pitch. And then they produce the video for 2 minute or 1 minute or something. So when I look at it, it's inconsistency of message, or sometimes I cannot see any message. Elevator pitch is challenging to any founder and CEO of tech company. That's a very tough job. So when I listen to or when I watch the video, I don't see any message. This is just beautiful. So I recommend when they found company, work on the core atom message first, elevator type or the on pager first, and then produce a 1 minute, 2 minute generic strategic narrative video to share with the investor or the strategic partner. So we talk about the 3 bridges today. I'm not going to talk again. So a little bit about myself. I was selected one of the 27 contributor of 2025 and helping to define the 25 tech and startup landscape by E27 in Singapore. So I'm working as a narrative architect and the value creation architect for the tech company and private equity portfolio company. A little bit of my background. Also, I launched and work as a founding chair for Asia Value Creation Award that intend to recognize and give award to the best operation team or the value creation team of private equity and venture capital. I'm writing very extensively and work as a columnist and tech journalist at E27 in Singapore, Tech Node in China, and Create Economic Daily. I also write a couple of the newsletter, including Substack. So this is a final phase. So your technology deserves a worthy story, and clinical data prove your product works, but the narrative prove your company matter. So if anything we discuss I mean, sparked a question for your company, feel free to reach out. This is a QR code for my LinkedIn. I think this is it. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, David. Okay, so
Thank you.
I will talk about my topic very briefly, because of the I want to keep our Q&A session. So I briefly touch upon because I already shared the very deep dive style two white papers about agentic AI framework and other topics. And also like I shared my slide and you have a slide, have an exact summary and everything. But I've just to give you just 1 minute that what I'm doing because I'm 30 years in tech industry, as David said about I'm tech guy, and then I also attorney in New York State attorney and the IP attorney, so and the licensing professionals. So I also like have a 3 years of private equity founder kind of like experience. So I have a touch upon the all aspect of the today's topic. And then what I'm doing now is I'm uh, you may heard about it AI native because this is the era of the AI dominate in all verticals. And I've been to CES and then all topics about AI. And as an expert, and especially the recent trend is that they call agentic AI, is it's kind of like a human-like and reasoning like a human and act like a human. So what I'm doing is to supporting healthcare, MedTech, and biopharma, life science, all the kind of ecosystem. And then I build up how the agentic AI framework can support this ecosystem kind of like working. So I did this kind of webinar for 2 years, and then for the identity AI focus in healthcare and life science for 1 year. So I have a touch upon all different aspects of the one, and then this topic I found that recently there was a lot of needs that I interact. I based in Boston. I've interacted a lot of the people in Boston area, and then I found that this is a really the needed topic that to touch upon because a lot of the like the cross-border dealing and investment is going on, and then a lot of people are interested in this. So I organized this webinar, and then I also developed my framework that actually the how actually support this kind of like part of the kind of ecosystem, right? The BD and also investment. So what I'm doing is kind of like just building the AI native professionals expert in this field. So what I'm doing is just supporting using AI, agentic AI, to support human professionals in this field to supporting them to make a deal flow more easier and then solve the complex problem because they are AI, so better than in that area, right? But what I'm doing approaching is a human oversight. So what I call like my framework is a human AI co-filer. So they co-filer. So what I'm producing is to, for example, like they want to be kind of like a digital AI twin of AI with Josh. They want to be like a AI twin of David. So they mimic the professional and then expertise, experience David and Josh, and then they supporting the individual people as make them as AI native. That's my proposal. So if you look at detail, because they're too much technical, because I'm very serious guy in this space. I develop a lot of things and I also file a lot of patent about that. So if you're interested and then keep just looking at my LinkedIn, and I'm every at 1 week, 2 weeks, I was changing my topic, and then we're going to have a topic again. And David and George, if you want to share your slide, and then just send me, then I will be integrated with mine, and then not only that I distribute to the like there was a 300 more than 300 the 30 the registers for this webinar but also that I have a full of my previous webinar attendance is around the 2000s. So I'm going to share this recording and presentation. So just to share if you want to share. So and then okay, so we left 5 minutes, right? So any kind of like I think there's a lot of people that I found that in usually this kind of like a Zoom kind of like a webinar, they are shy about to talk about something that I experience. So usually I just look at the if there is someone that I know very well. For example, I had a webinar this afternoon, and then I pick up two people and then share their comment and insight whatever, right? But first, I looking for the volunteer that who wanna share the comment or whatever. Do you wanna share? And then if not, then I will let Josh and Dave share the final comment or the insight, and then we'll finish up. Okay? Is there anyone from the participant to share something or question? I didn't check that the chat. Usually the people to share their question in chat. Okay, so mm, okay, so there is a uh some sure of the mind is a compressor mentors. You matters. Okay, mind is some starter, and also there was Hyungyoung Kim or if you want to introduce your company, right? Because if you are looking for US-based BD and partnering capability, feel free to connect. So she shared her thing, but anyway, because okay,
Right. Yeah, that's
yeah,
me.
you can share. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, okay, Katrine. So, yeah, so I basically joined this call to learn more about the ecosystem in Asia. So you're already fulfilling that. So nice to meet you all. So I'm based here in Seattle, and I work with innovative organizations on building partnering networks, and I'm also a transactor. So curious to connect with any innovative organizations that have the need to do their external funding strategies. I work a lot on undiluted funding strategies and general R&D business strategy. So if you're in Seattle, feel free to link up with me or reach out. I will also be in Seoul in September, so maybe I'll see some of you there.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I think that we will share the final comment. First, I will share my experience in the CES. I think that's related to something in MedTech. What happened is that in the rarely the CES organized a one-day conference about the focus on digital health. And then the guy actually the show up is unexpected guy show. Actually, he should show up in JP Morgan, but he was a FDA commissioner. Actually, he is my Johns Hopkins alumni, and then he talked about deregulation of the medtech kind of device. The reason is because you invest in recently, especially in the digital health, AI powered like a device, wearable devices. You may know about it. And then what happened is that there is a gray area. And then if you look at for example, I've been around like a showroom in the CES, and then 90% of the device actually they are not through the like password the regulated pathway. They call like we are not doing any medical kind of thing, right? Because nothing to do with therapeutics or whatever. There's a well-being product, right? But on contrary to the situation that AI is so smart now, so, for example, that you just looking at the kind of like some simple biometrics signals or something like that. AI interpret them and they make a beautiful kind of like a digital biomarker can be used in the treatment or whatever, right? That's the situation. So what happened is that you describe that I'm not doing anything like a medical thing, but actually it should be under scrutiny in the FDA. So the commissioner talk about that we are going. It's a rare speech say that we are going to be at the speed of the regulation at the like innovation at the speed of Silicon Valley. So it's unreal. They had a statement from the like in the biopharma kind of like regulator. So, but anyway, because there will be the big kind of the grow of this market that I expect because he promised that it will be more flexible about the pathway through this kind of like webbing product. Previously, but it's working like a medical device. So this is one thing that I want to share with you. Josh, do you want to share anything?
Yeah, I guess first off, thanks everyone for joining, and second off, we will be in Seoul March 9th to 11th. We'll also be in Daejeon March 11th and 12th with our fifth East West Biopharma Summit. We organized that with McKinsey and Bay Helix, and have a really great regional host committee based in Korea, including folks from Korea Bio, BG and a few others. And so would love to see everybody there. I think now more than ever, building your network as early as possible is really, really important. Long before you're ready to partner or to seek investors, you really need to build your network. So please send me a note. I'm on LinkedIn. Happy to let you know more, and hope to see you in Seoul.
Thank you, David.
I mean, I already explained all the details through the presentation, so I hope to stay in touch and then reach out to me if you have any topic you want to discuss with me.
Thank you. Okay, so it's time to finish up. So thank you for attending today's webinar. And then if Josh and David share their slide, and then I will share with you, and
Happy to.
also this recording. And then you can keep touch with these great speakers, and also I think that almost all of you are my LinkedIn connections, so you don't know about me. So let's keep in touch. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Take
Alex.
care.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
so much. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.